Everybody, thank you all for joining. We are about to have our next MOCTales, Men of Color telling their stories, conversations with Rome Flynn. So you guys just hold up for a little bit and listen to his latest track, latest song, Keep Me in Mind.
I'm trying to stay around you, you don't even. I'll make you scream my name. Oh yeah, make you change your mind about that nigga. Yeah, leave his ass behind. Keep me in mind. Keep me in mind. When your man go missing, when he goes missing. Keep me in mind. Let me fix that issue for you. Let me, girl, I know, yeah.
What's going on, Corey? Pin that comment, right?
Man.
All right.
I think that's straight.
Everybody doing? Y'all doing all right? Everybody doing good? It's Friday. TGIF. Finally made it. I ain't think we was, but look at God. So I hope everybody getting ready for the weekend. And I would ask what y'all doing on the weekend, but y'all probably gonna be doing the same thing you was doing today, last weekend, last month. But hopefully everybody's staying home. Where are all the How to Get Away with Murder fans? Are y'all in here? Mr. Rome.
What up?
You want? Let's go ahead and play a little bit. Let them hear it.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
If y'all haven't heard or seen the video, it's out on YouTube right now.
Out on YouTube right now. That is Keep Me in Mind.
Yeah.
By Rome Flynn. Boss, how are you?
I'm chilling. What's up with you? You good?
Doing all right. You know, this whole quarantine stuff, it's different. It's new. Ain't never been like this before. As you know, the president said, you got new people dying every day. So
Yeah.
so you know. How are you? You doing all right on your
Yeah.
side?
Yeah. I'm in LA right now, so ain't too bad to be quarantined out here.
That's good. We over here in New York, and it's cold, and it's raining, and it's warm, but everybody in the house anyway. But you know, keeping it busy. How about self-care? You doing anything particularly just to kind of keep that mental going all right?
Just taking little moments. I've been preaching to people on my lives. I've been telling them, trying to engage them on having better habits. Waking up in the morning. Just take a second before I get out of bed,
Right.
and just get focused on what I want out of the day.
And not picking up the phone automatically.
Facts. Not picking up the phone right away. Giving myself an opportunity to breathe life.
Right. Some good advice. Good advice. So, I mean, I just want to get right into it. How to Get Away with Murder
Yeah.
it's done. It's finished. How do you feel? I mean, I know you guys have already shot a long time ago, but
Yeah.
now that the fans, have got to see it and everything like that, and it's over, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm good. I think initially, after there's been two stages, of me finish filming,
Mm-hmm.
and then I felt like some days after, because I was on the work schedule I was working, 8 hours, 10 hours, every
Right.
day, every other day, whatever, and then it just kind of stopped. So I had a little separation anxiety with not being able to have another chance playing this character again, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And then the other stage is when it aired. When it aired for the last time last night. I watched it yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and for the first time, so
Oh, wow.
I got to kind of see everything unfold. It's been, I'm good. I'm good with it ending. I wish we had more time, but
Right.
it's what it is.
All good things come to an end. So, it's interesting. A lot of people, there's like a new demographic that has been introduced to you. But you're not new to this. Like you
Right.
got an Emmy for your work in soap operas and things like that. How does that feel now that you have it's kind of like a different audience and probably like a younger audience that's now familiar with you? How is that transition or how people are kind of receiving you?
Yeah, it's been it's whatever, man. I just always just work, man. I try to let my work speak for itself. It may seem like I came out of nowhere, but I've been putting work in here in LA and just trying to create a path for myself for the past like 5 years, 6 years.
Right.
Is how long I've been doing television and film and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, I started on Bold and the Beautiful. I was there for 2.5 years, and I did 2 seasons of the Have and Have Nots.
Yep.
What's interesting is that these three different, you know, um, fan bases. We have Bold and Beautiful fan base,
Yep.
the Tyler Perry fan base because I did a film with him, and also Have and Have Nots is his, and then How to Get Away with Murder. So there are three different fan bases that don't really know of each other.
Right.
Like
Right.
people who know me from Bold and Beautiful don't know me from How to Get Away or Have and Have Nots, and vice versa. So it's just interesting that people kind of they live in their own bubble when it comes to the stuff they watch.
Right.
So when people do come up to me, or when they used to, when we used to be out in the world, it used to just be interesting to me to figure out. They would say, "You're from that show," and I'm like, "What show?" And they're like, "You're more than one." I'm like, "Yeah," So yeah, so I'm just trying to be as visible as I can, and I think that's part of the game, especially when you want to get the bigger roles and you want to get the bigger opportunities that are out there, but are just very scarce. For people of color, it's just really difficult to break through. You know what I mean? Even for somebody like me who hasn't, an Emmy for younger actor in a drama series, and not a lot of guys have that. But still, I still have to travel this certain path, this certain road, and I got to be twice as good.
Yep.
And I got to be twice as visible. So as much as I can be present with fans and be in front of them and the other things that I'm doing, it's more likely, that these bigger productions and as we go further on, they'll be leaning toward more acceptable, bring me in, and it's just, it's a different path to take.
Right. So you talk a little bit about people of color, and you're Afro-Cuban, proud Afro-Cuban. What type of stories are you either like interested in from that standpoint, or even kind of creating your own?
Yeah, I think I've been really, wanting to see more stories that are more oriented around telling a Black experience, but not from like a white person's perspective or a white
Right.
person's like lens. And I think that's what we see a lot. And the thing is that it's a method that Hollywood uses. That
Mhm.
it's tested and proven that people respond well to it. Um, because what happens is that we have a film like Green Book,
Mhm.
where those kind of films really received well in the Hollywood kind of um, spectrum. But for me, it just didn't resonate a lot with me. I felt like it was told through the lens of his white counterpart, not who the story was really about.
Right.
What I saw from it was him just getting saved by his white counterpart, his white savior continually.
All the
When he was in the
time.
bathroom, we saved from the police. He invited him in to have dinner with them at the end of the movie. I think it was Christmas or something like that.
Right.
But it just kept reminding what it is. It just eases people into this idea that, oh, it wasn't so bad, or that, you know, there are a lot of people that are good, which is true, you know. But at the same time, we have a lot of films like that already. We have a lot of stories that have been told like that already, and we need to tell the real stories. We need to tell the real, you know. Acting is a reflection of life. That's what it is, an imitation of life.
Right.
And what we're doing is showing one perspective and showing one vision of what that looks like. So in order for us to really shift the culture and shift people's perspectives about racism and about colorism, we need to show these stories to them. It's going to make people uncomfortable, you know? So what happens is we may have a film or two that makes people uncomfortable and they go, I don't know how I felt about that. You know, if they don't agree with or identify with it, but it makes them look at things differently. But then you have a film come around like, you know, I keep mentioning Green Book because there's a lot of other films like that. But what happens is those films come in and they make people revert back to the way that they used to think.
Right.
Oh, well, he's winning an Emmy, he was winning Oscars for this, and, you know, this and that. Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. So it's all about trying to, you know, kind of appease to the masses, you know. But what I will say is that Hollywood definitely underrates Black cinema, you know, and I think that Tyler Perry is a huge, you know, catalyst to that, because his films always go number one, whether you like his storytelling or not. He's speaking to a specific audience that is disenfranchised, that don't really get to hear their stories being told, however dramatic they may be. We all know somebody who looks like and sounds like Medea in our family, probably. Right. And so when we see that representation in film, people come out of their houses and go watch this movie. You know, and that movie went number one or number two, the film that I did, number two in the box office for Lionsgate. Mm-hmm. Now he got this, you know, this 10-year deal with Lionsgate, and it just ended, you know. But before that, you know, he told me about how he had to go through so many different things in order to get that deal. And he became one of the more, you know, selling franchises out there, you know, always top two, top one or two or three in box office. So there is definitely a niche in a way for Black cinema. I just think that we haven't been able to tap into it yet to really tell really good stories. You know, we have a few, but what I'm noticing that is when I'm seeing these films with where there are, you know, African American leads, the story is being told in a way, like I said, to make people feel better about their insecurities and about the things that they question about society, and those aren't a true representation of what life is to me.
What life is.
Yeah. So.
I mean, that's all. I mean, dropping gems for sure. You know, and it's talking about like just even being in rooms with a diverse cast. You know, you have been, you know, had the ability to be in, you know, with Tyler Perry and his cast, and even, you know, How to Get Away with Murder was a very, very diverse cast, for sure. Kind of what did you learn from being in that arena? I mean, and then also working with the likes of, you know, a Black queen, Viola Davis.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I came in, I was in a specific situation, you know. For me, I didn't start with the show. So I came in when the show was already starting, as far as it relates to How to Get Away. 4 seasons in, it can be difficult. It could be taxing, you know, because you go into a show where you have to integrate yourself with a group of actors who are really good and who know each other, who have camaraderie, and they're very familiar with each other. And so that's one aspect, and the other aspect is being integrated into the show for fans to like or hate, or to allow this character to be in this world, you know.
Right.
So I felt it from both ends, you know. So I had to figure this part of it and behind the scenes, and then I got it a lot from fans, you know, about, you know, either hating Gabriel or not really knowing what his presence was for. Right. And a lot of times I'm the person that gets a lot of the heat because of that. But I mean, clearly I have no creative control over storyline, you know, so that's not something that's in my power. Now, what I did do, and I was really adamant about doing, which I've done in every project I've worked on with Tyler Perry, Bold and Beautiful, is that I wrote a lot for Gabriel, wrote a lot of his mannerisms, you know, a lot of the things that he would say were totally different, you know, than the way that he ended up coming out. You know, the basketball aspect of him was not something that was written into the script before I got there. Right. That stuff came after, and, you know, shout out to Pete Nowalk, who's the head writer, and creator of How to Get
Allow
Away.
you to do those things.
Yeah, he allowed me to send these very lengthy emails, you know, right before our episodes were starting. I would break down every scene, and kind of give my perspective on why I wanted these things to be changed.
Right.
And I think that it made him a little bit more complex and likable in a sense, because I didn't care if people hated or loved him. I just wanted people to have a feeling or emotion about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the same thing I did, you know, when I was with Tyler. And what happened is, you know, working with Tyler and then dating back to when I was on the soap, and writing for the soap for, you know, the storyline that I ended up winning an Emmy for was storyline that I wrote, that I ended up going to CBS and asking them, you know, being a very green new actor, that was like really unheard of. And, you know, but I knew it was put on me to do. And, you know, I wasn't afraid of failing, you know, where I came from. That shit didn't matter to me. Someone telling me no, you know what I'm saying? So, but thankfully, I think a combination of me being there at CBS and Bold and Beautiful wanting me to stay, because I was nearing the end of my contract, they allowed me the fortitude to bring my storyline to the forefront and change some really, you know, important parts of the storyline. And those, you know, subsequently are the scenes that I used to win the Emmy. Wow. Now, same thing happened when I joined Tyler. I already had these habits, you know, and again, he's one of those actor creators. He wears all the hats. Yeah. So he got the creativeness and the creative input that I wanted to put in. But it was a relationship that I had to build with him. It wasn't like I couldn't just pull up and say, I want to make changes. Right. You know, the very first time I made any changes, I came to set and two things happened. It's my first time working with Tyler. He said, okay, so what we do every day, we pray, which I've never prayed on a set ever besides doing it with him. Every production, every TV show, movie he does, we do a circle prayer and he prays. And so we did that. But as we started to film, you know, I said, okay, let's rehearse. Let's block. You know, we're doing blocking. And he looked at me and he was like, you done? And it was like dead quiet. And I'm like, yeah, you know, whatever. And he's like, look, there ain't no rehearsing around here. Like you gonna come prepared and be ready to shoot this shit. We don't have time to be rehearsing. Like, you know, we got to show up and be ready and be prepared. So from that moment on, I was locked in. I was like, bet, you know, because that's not normally typically how they do it on set. You know, if any films I've ever been on, we always do a rehearsal or a run through. So from that point on, that's when I started to build the relationship with him, you know, from the movie. And then we did the TV show after. And when he called me about doing the show, well, he pulled me aside when I was working on the movie and he asked me where I was from. And he was like, man, I never heard of you before. Tell me your story or whatever. I'm like, well, this is who I am. This is where I came from. And he said, man, I think you're special. Because I don't say that to a lot of people. I think you're special. And I'm not just saying that, but I feel like you'd be great for my other show. And I'm like, well, hell yeah. You know, I'm just coming off of Bold and Beautiful. I want another gig. You know, I want to get a job, you know, because I wasn't going to stay at Bold and Beautiful. That was always the plan to leave. Right. So he was like, I'm gonna call you. You know, I said, okay, cool. So like a month passed after we done filming. I get a call from him while I'm in a barber chair. Yep. And, you know, I got the damn thing buzzing in my ear and shit. Right. And I'm like, he's like, I hear that, and he's doing this, and I'm like, who? He's like, it's Tyler, man. I'm writing this character. What's going? Like, you got a few minutes, and I'm like, oh shit. So I'm outside, walking down the sidewalk, pacing on the phone with him with the barber cape on half of my haircut, and you know, we talking about this character. And he's like, what do you think about? What do you want to like? Tell me something that you want to do on screen. You feel like you never got a chance to, like, you know, he was just like really wanting to know what I thought. Right. And so I'm like, okay, cool. So we started developing this kind of dynamic comedic character. It was kind of ended up being funny on that show. So once we came to start working, I showed up to set and I had changes because there were points where he would put jokes in and I was like, well, what if he said this, you know? And I just would go through the script every day. And the first couple of days I showed up and started doing that. And he looked at me, he was like, so you writing the show too? Well, you want to direct too? What's going on? Did you write this or did I write it or whatever? Right. But he was real funny like that. And I was just like, you know, I'm like, you know, just trying to build that with him. And so over time, he would just tell me whether shit was funny or not. He'd be like, no, that's funny. We got to use that. Or he'd be like, you can't say that on television. Like you can't say that on television, but he always encouraged me to just bring what I could, you know, and I took that with me when I went to How to Get Away with Murder.
Right. It's dope, dope. But so now, you know, we off of, you know, you're finished with How to Get Away with Murder, and now you're I wouldn't even say transitioning. You've been doing music for some time. What
Yeah.
is kind of your thoughts on it's kind of this conversation of people like, oh, you know, they're an actor, now they're a singer, pick one
Yeah.
lane, you know? And I always, me personally, I'm going back and forth. I'm like, do you not see like Jamie Foxx, who was able to do it so well, you know, and
Yeah.
there's opportunities. You can't, I mean, people are talented, you know, in various things, but what's your take on that?
You know, it's a stigma
Mhm.
between, you know, acting and doing music. The actors want to be musicians, the musicians want to be actors.
Right.
The same thing with athletes, you know,
Yep.
and actors and rappers, and all of this shit is all synonymous, you know.
Yep.
But another form of art, you know. And what I noticed is that I took two things from it, because I do get that pushback from people. But what they don't know is that they really don't know me, you know. So they've grown to accustomed to me being these characters, but they know very little about me personally.
Right.
And for some people, that's easier for them to cope with, you know, to just allow you to be who they feel that you are, you know. So once you come against that perspective, then they're like, well, you just want to do this just for now, you bored or whatever the hell it could be. um and another thing, it's very trendy right now on social media to
To
kind
be
of
everything.
to try to, well, I mean, it's trendy for people in the social media world, you know, that to try to, you know, take down other people,
Oh,
you
okay.
know,
Cancel culture and
cancel
have things
culture
like,
kind of thing,
yeah,
which I think
yeah,
there is a lane for that. There, I feel like that is definitely relevant.
right,
But what I notice is that it becomes a trend when one thing goes viral, people piggyback off of that.
right,
You know what I mean? And they go, oh, you know, it's a trend right now. Like for instance, it's a trend to say wild shit in my DM. You know what I mean? So which people often do.
right,
You know, they say the same exact thing. Like
right,
one of the trends last week was I kept getting DMs from people saying he told me to say hi to you. Or he told me to send you a message, and I was like, I never responded, but I was like, what the hell are all these messages saying the same
right,
thing?
right,
And then I saw some viral post saying basically, someone responding saying, who is he? And he said, the Lord. The Lord said message you or something, right? So that's what I mean. Like it's a sort of piggybacking, less original kind of wave that's going on right now. So
right,
you can be on both spectrums of that. I've been on the end of it where it's like, man, it's super trendy to say, you know, cool, whatever shit to me, right? And then I've
right,
been on the opposite end where it's super trendy for people to tell me that they don't want to see my music or hear my music, or they
right,
would rather just look at me. Or, you
right,
know, I'm just in a really specific kind of space
right,
that I feel like not a lot of men will ever speak on or even have the opportunity to be a part of. You know
right,
what I mean? So
right,
um, I'm always about breaking barriers, man. You know, I do so many different things, and it's been a real effort to make sure that I don't brand myself with what I'm doing, because
right,
I'm more than the work that I do. You know
right,
what I mean? So that's
right,
why you don't see 1,000 posts about how to get away, or, you know, 1,000 posts about me doing Medea's family funeral, or what any of the other shows. You just
right,
see kind of different spurts of parts of my life that I want you to see.
right.
And I think that
It's good.
it's important if you want to be able to reinvent yourself. As some Two Chains
Mhm.
told me once, is, you know, you have to think of yourself like a business. You know, you have to reinvent yourself every couple of years.
Right,
And in order to do that, you can't like stamp yourself as one thing, you know. So I always try to make sure I keep people present, and kind of at least give them an opportunity to hear the music. I
right.
just, one thing I don't like is when people, this is one thing I try to give people advice on. If they're gonna have an opinion about things in
You gotta
general and all,
listen. You gotta listen to it. That's
at
right.
least be knowledgeable, and at least do your
Right,
research,
right,
right? So if, and I've seen this online, I've seen people say stuff like, y'all heard Rome Flynn's music, that like is I heard people say it's dope, and some people like, yeah, I heard a lot of it, it wasn't good. And it's like, a lot of it, it's like, I got one song out,
right,
two songs out, and that was before I had
right,
any music out. So that
right.
just told me a lot of people are sheep and they followers, man.
Yep.
You know, so I just urge people to have their own thought process and make their own decisions, and don't base it off what's trendy and what's out there for people to see.
and live their life. You have to live your
Live your
life,
life, man.
regardless of what that is. That's your life, and you're gonna find people that likes it and people that don't, and there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do. So, in terms of keep me in mind, what was like your thought process when it came to writing that particular song?
Yeah. I had another song I was gonna put out called Wave, and
Okay,
people have been like, begging me to put this song out, put a snippet
right.
out of it last year, and I might still do that this year.
Okay.
But that's a song that you should enjoy with people. It's a record you listen to around other people in a live setting. And this song in particular is a song you could listen to alone. You can listen to it with the lights down. You can, for my ladies, you can put this on your makeup, playlist. I know y'all got the makeup playlist when y'all wake up in the morning. It's a really easy song to listen to, but it still has a message behind it. And what I gather is that it's really difficult nowadays that artists don't really have a message. They kind of
Mm,
all over the place in the stuff that they're saying,
right,
and they're just a lot of quotes and a lot of captions, for your Instagram. But I wanted to tell a story about, relationships, but not necessarily being in one, but being on the outside looking in, and I think I mean, you can identify this in some way. You've either been in this position or you that person that's on the outside looking in of somebody else's relationship.
right,
And you're looking at how they're doing things, and you wish that you could get their attention for a moment to tell them that they're bigger than the circumstance that they're in. But again, that familiarity is a really hard thing to break. It's a really hard cycle to break
right,
in relationships, and that's why you see people stay with people longer than 2 or 3 years than they're supposed to, because
right,
they feel obligated. They feel familiar, because change is scary.
right,
Change is something that is unpredictable. It's literally what it is. So some people would rather manage uh, being unhappy rather than the opportunity or the chance to be happy
right.
without knowing that it could happen or not.
I don't know. I'm gonna say this in New York, it's a little different. We stay with each other because those bills is high. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go half on this rent. We're gonna go half on these
Uh-huh.
bills. We
Yeah,
figure it
yeah.
out
That's
later.
another thing. You integrate your whole life with a person, man. And then,
Yeah,
but I'm telling you, the only way to grow, the only way you can progress is if you allow yourself to fail and to be in those spaces, man. You'll never be able to see what kind of person you would be if you don't allow yourself to get there.
right. So when you're writing, what's kind of like your creative space? Like, is there a certain, maybe there's, you write when you go to bed, or kind of when you write when you wake up. Like, do you have kind of like a creative process?
It's really, really instinctual. Like I think that for a split moment for everybody, there are points and times, right, when we're engaging in something that's new for us. There's a short period of time where your first instinct, your first thought is really the true essence of how you feel about a situation, or what you think about a situation. So when I'm writing music, I put the song on, and I don't put a lot of pressure on myself to write about specific things. But when I'm listening, I just feel what I'm listening, and whatever I say, whatever comes is what I need to talk about, because this is what it spoke to me on a record. And that's a difficult thing when you're writing about, when you're doing a specific project and you need it to kind of fall in line with each other. So I have a lot of different records that don't fall in line with the keep me in mind kind of vibe. I got a whole
Right,
bunch of different kind of vibes, but
right.
for my EP, it's all going to be aligned with like the keep me in mind kind of energy on that.
So I know we got times coming up, but I know we're in quarantine and everything's kind of jacked up. But what can we look forward to from Rome?
I'm not sure. I know
Real
for
answer.
now, I know for now, I'm doing my music thing, and I'm gonna keep doing that.
Right,
Um, but I'm just waiting to see what doors are gonna be open, and what I know this chapter is closed in my life as far as how to get away with murder.
right.
But I've closed chapters similarly before, so I'm waiting to see what's next for me.
Perfect, perfect. Well, I want to thank you so much for jumping on this call and just telling us
Yeah,
about how to get away with murder. We still over here trying to figure out the ending. It was crazy. We all over it. But thank
yeah,
you so much. Thank you everybody for joining in with us for our mocktails conversation. Men of color having our telling our stories and kind
yeah.
of pushing us forward.
Yes,
But
sir.
thank you so much, and everybody, y'all have a good night.
Thank y'all. Love y'all.
Thank you.